Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on MyFM 101.3 with your host, Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group, and I'm John Drouin from Main Effort Financial. We're both located in Holliston, Massachusetts. However, we do the show from Milford. Milford is kind of like that's the epicenter right here.
It's the media epicenter of the area.
And
Absolutely.
Holliston is just one of the satellites, along with many other great towns. But and we touch them. We touch all those towns. But Holliston is kind of like that's in our hearts, right?
Oh, it's in our heart, is right.
But we do love Milford as well.
Near and dear.
Also, we're joined once again by our pal. I mean, I could call him our pal, right?
He's our buddy. He's our buddy.
Christian Bidet from Holliston Cable Access TV. He, of course, is the senior executive producer of Holliston Cable Access TV show Money in the Law, award-winning, 9 years running. I think, didn't we win? Was it like the Peabody Nobel something?
It's something different. You know what it is? Actually, I think it's an award somewhat similar to another award that was recently given out for those of you who follow politics, belonging to our previous former commander-in-chief.
Previous former?
Yes, previous/former commander-in-chief. Did you see the pictures?
I did not see the pictures. Oh, please.
Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. First of all, Jay here. They apparently down in the southern outpost of Trump, the Trump organization.
Mar-a-Lago? Is that the Lago?
Down at the
Camp
Lago. Yep. There was a big meeting down there last week, and they gave him what looked on TV or at least online, like a very teeny tiny silver bowl.
Really?
And it was the inaugural award. I think it was like the Champion of Freedom or some foolishness like that. And
this is a made-up award.
Oh, it's not made up. No, it's created.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the inaugural award.
It's real, yeah.
It's real. Right now, it's real. It's the inaugural award. So it was a big deal. So apparently there were pitches, and it was like, I don't know. I mean, how many of those awards did you give out when all those years that you spent on the soccer field?
Yeah.
Right? Everybody gets one, right? Always a tie at the Y, right?
Yeah.
So you gave those things out. This is kind of what it looked like. It looked like, I'll tell you what it looked like. Remember the scene in Caddyshack? Because he had his golf gear on when they gave the award to him.
Right.
Remember the scene in Caddyshack where they show the awards and they get the music's playing, right?
That's
and then they pan back and you see how small the awards actually. But at first glance, it was like you were carrying around.
You're at the Masters, right?
That's right. And so it was pretty funny. So if we're gonna get an award, that's what we're gonna get. I digress, but that's what we're gonna get.
No. That's
newly
no digression.
minted inaugural. Maybe we'll make one up.
I mean, I would, again, I'm not going to lump our award with that award. I mean, I think our award is well-deserved. I mean, we work hard.
Yes,
we work hard,
do.
right? We're
Yes.
trying to, we're providing a selfless service here, along with Christian, right?
Is a teeny tiny little silver bowl too much to ask for? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I don't need a bowl. I don't even need a piece of paper. You know what? Although Napoleon did say, right, I can conquer Europe with enough medals. That's all I need is medals. That's right.
Absolutely.
So, and it's good. It's good to recognize in the Army. We always recognize soldiers. It's great. It's great. You kind of say, hey,
morale booster, keep you moving.
You bet. So maybe next time you may get the inaugural Money in the Law medal.
Inaugural.
Yeah. The Medal of Fortitude.
Yes, there you go.
I'll give it a name. We'll give it a name.
That's right.
All right. So what's going on? What's new with you?
What's going on? Not a whole heck of a lot. Normally we'd be wrapping up tax season right now, but we're going to push that off a little bit.
I'm glad too, because I'm a little late getting my taxes in.
You and me both. I am
a little late getting them in.
I am persona non grata over at the CPA firm. I'm always a little last minute.
At Burke and Raphael.
That's right.
They got a special file cabinet for you.
Yeah, I have my picture is on a dartboard over there. Absolutely. I got to get that done. Moving into the springtime, which is exciting. Going to get a whole bunch of things going to get some stuff to rolling there. And
wait, speaking of springtime, are you going anywhere anytime soon? I mean, you talk a good game. You talk like what
we've talked about this before. But once the weather breaks, the gaze turns south a little bit, and you try to get down on the. I'm actually going down this weekend.
Well, there you go.
Yep. I want to give a shout out to the what we call the Bible study crew back in Holliston. I get led by a solid contingent of gentlemen, using that term loosely, who I have been lucky enough to corral into a little bit of a weekend project down the Cape this weekend. So those guys will come down.
Is this the mission crew?
Yes.
This is the mission crew.
It's the St. Mary's mission trip crew. Yep. And spent a bunch of weekends, I shouldn't say a bunch of weekends, weeks with these guys down south doing the Lord's work through St. Mary's.
Doing the Lord's work.
Doing the Lord's work. A lot of fun. Great guys, great crew. And so I've been threatening to put this project in place. And so we're going to try to get that done this weekend.
I have this vision of like you guys all kind of it's this Peter Pan thing, or not Peter Pan, Robin Hood. Like it's Robin Hood thing where you guys are all like in the woods, kind of hiding out, like robbing from the rich, stealing from the poor. The sheriff of Nottingham coming after you guys, right? Little John, right? I mean, you're all doing the right thing. You're there. You're doing the right thing, but maybe a little bit of an outlaw, maybe a little like an outlaw vibe,
little renegade vibe. I think what you're probably going to see is a bunch of guys standing around watching four guys work. That's what I think you're probably going to see. I think it's going to be.
One's got a clipboard.
Bunch of guys leaning on a shovel and one guy in a hole, and that guy's working, and everybody else is taking note. Yep, that's right. That's right. So that's all we get going on. Other than that, this is kind of that time where the kids are heading back to school, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Moving out of the Zoom environment into what was going to be considered a much more traditional learning environment. So that's exciting. I get a daughter who will be coming home from college, in a couple of weeks when she wraps up her freshman year, and she's had a great year. She'll tell you that she says, "Look, Dad, there's a couple things I missed. I missed sports, right? She missed going to all the sporting events that we thought we were going to go to. She goes, that was unfortunate. And they kind of clamped down on their social, environment.
Yeah, and then they had to.
They did. That's right. And she said that. She goes, I would have liked to have had a slightly bigger social footprint. She said, but all in all, it was pretty normal.
Yeah, and better than what it could have been, right?
Yeah.
It could have been nobody's, a lot of schools were like, hey, no one's coming back yet. We're not ready.
I mean, a lot of kids had their whole freshman year basically from either the office or from the bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And they just did all the Zoom stuff, and that gets old. I get it. That's not the experience you hoped for. I mean, they don't make shows on MTV about that, right?
No.
So that's not what you want. So
not one that you're going to watch.
No. So so that's what's going on. How about you guys?
We're good. My oldest came home this weekend. So she, the grown up came. Well, no, but she just came home for the weekend.
Oh, just for the visit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. There you go. All right.
Yeah, she's up and running, living in New York City. And I mean, right where you think
New York, big city of dreams.
It's tough being her. So she came home. So it was good. It's always good to have like a good dose of Lily. And it's funny.
Lily a talker when she comes home.
Lily,
Yeah.
My Lily.
Yeah.
Oh, God, how much time you got? I mean, she'll and this is one of those things where kind of the older that kids get, and you it's almost like you saw it in yourself, right? I always used to say I never really understood my dad until I got into my mid-20s, right? And when I was like, hey, you know what? You're kind of a smart guy. You're a lot smarter than you used to be.
You might know some stuff.
Yeah, and you're a lot more fun to hang out with. I don't know why. And he would say, you too.
Yeah.
So Lily is kind of entering that stage where she comes home and she's like happy to be there and she's much nicer to her sisters. Like she's much more, the girls.
Well, they're older too, so they've.
Right. So everybody got it was a great visit, and everybody, we're like, and it was easy, up and down the train, from Providence, and
nice.
So
she picked up the tab yet? Play that game. You've been out hanging around, and you go get dinner, and she puts her card on the table before you. Has that happened yet?
No, it's funny you say that. So Lily still has a credit card that somehow is connected to my credit card, right?
My cold dead hands.
She even said we were at Starbucks and she was buying and she throws down the credit card that I'm like, that looks an awful lot like my credit card. And she goes, she said, and this is a great line. She goes, oh yeah, this is my in-state credit card. I use this when I'm in state. So
they required me to use this one.
That was pretty funny.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, so it was good to see her. It was good to have her kind of, and that's the other thing is because we had her for so long, like all during the pandemic, and then when she moved out in January, all of a sudden it's like, wow, something's missing, right? So to have her come back was fun.
So my daughter came home for Easter, and I went up to get her, and she gets in the car, and she's like, oh my God, so glad to see you. And she goes, I haven't seen you in 2 months.
Yeah.
And, other than like a FaceTime call and some phone calls and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, oh my God, when did you ever think, right, at one point when they were little or younger, that you would wake up one day and you'd realize that you hadn't seen your kid in 2 months because you didn't go more than 2 seconds without making sure you could put your hand on them,
That's right?
So now all of a sudden, they're out doing all their stuff and, hey, time marches on and I get it. And, we can rattle off 80 country songs right now that will make us cry about this entire thing like it's nobody's business. But hey, that happens, right?
That's right. That's right. So it's funny. I mentioned last week I had met with one of my old buddies from school, right?
Yep.
And it's funny, when you talk about country songs. So this guy. Great guy. His name's Sean Calley. Great guy. Special shout out to Sean if you ever listen to the show. He was one of those. He was the guy who we all kind of looked up to because he was older, right?
Yeah.
He was prior service, right? So Calley's thing, and it just dawned on me. He was a Springsteen freak.
Oh yeah.
Like he was the.
Why wouldn't it be?
He was the. But where everybody liked Bruce Springsteen, he was like, you can't talk about you can't listen to any other music around unless Bruce Springsteen. And I remember it dawned on me because he sends me a text and it's got this Kenny Chesney song on it.
Oh, all right,
and he's
careful.
like,
Yep.
yeah, right. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. You like country music? I go. The guy that I used to know used to only listen solely to Springsteen. And then he gets me this whole, wow, yeah, the Springsteen gets political, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, here we go. And I was like, yeah, but ... He's Bruce Springsteen.
Right. Yeah. That's right. He's still the boss.
I know he did a weird commercial and all that, right? And during the Super Bowl,
which is kind of awkward, but whatever.
And he did that Broadway thing where he was selling tickets for $2,500 a pop, and that was kind of like, that was a little uppity, right?
Yep.
But he's still Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, that's right. He can do it. He's earned the right to do it.
So it's funny. You made me think of that with your whole with your country. Like it's like, man, country's big now, but. It ain't Springsteen.
Well, it's big. It's crossover. It's a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah,
it's a lot going on.
It's a new world. It's
a lot going on down there.
There's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening in the country.
There's a lot going on.
A lot happening in the country world. So that's it. So yeah, end of the quarter. Good time to sit back and review portfolios and look at how the portfolio did for the quarter. And there's a lot of this is kind of a good time to you're probably getting some statements in the mail that talk about this stuff. This is a good time to do that.
It is. We in our practice, one of the things that we try to emphasize now is and we've talked about this before on the show, but the whole idea of like your employer sponsor plan, like your 401k, it's hard to make an adjustment on your 401k like in October or November.
By the time you work it through the HR system, make the adjustments. That's a good point.
Yeah. So oftentimes, like people who are kind of in that potential where they could increase their 401k or possibly even like contribute the maximum amount to their 401k, is this is the time if you're gonna do it, you could do it with less stress and pain and change in your income, because people be like, because people forget that. Your 401k it comes out of your paycheck, so it's gotta go through the whole payroll system in order to make those.
Well, if you get paid once a month, you get 8 more, which is a lot of companies do, right? Because it saves their payroll costs. You get 8 more chances to kind of like make that adjustment.
That's right.
So it's not a weekly thing now; it's a once a month thing. So
that's right. And
so you might miss one, so now you're down to 7. Yeah.
Yeah. So and because a lot of times in the beginning of the new year, people will be like, well, yeah, I really want to max out my 401k, but I don't know, my tax situation, but, right? And you kind of, so now is the time, kind of this April, May time frame where you can make that adjustment. You can, if you want to increase your 401k, and it's not going to change your cash flow as much as it would if you try to kind of scramble and do it in October or even November. And some people do that, and it's tricky.
Yeah.
And it's almost like where it's too much. And they'll, people will often say this too. It's another thing that's kind of misconception where people say, yeah, well, I can just change it online, right? So I can just change my contribution. But what happens, all it does is when you change something online, all that does is just from whoever the plan sponsor is, let's say it's Fidelity or whomever, they say, they just send a message to your HR department. So there still is some administrative like personnel work where that has to change. It's not like it just magically changes online.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you're thinking about it, and this is what some of the things we can like you said, in your review process, again, because your 401k that's your baby, right? That's as much as it's not sexy, it's not like fun, it's not like people don't talk about it at parties, but at the end of the day, nowadays, your employer sponsor plan for most people,
that's it. That's the whole shoot match.
That's your war chest.
Like,
that's right. What you're doing.
That's right.
And when you mess with it, or when you neglect it, or when you just kind of take it for granted, I'm contributing my 401k, and it's almost like you need people like Jay Marston who sit there and be like, no.
Or main effort.
You need to put more money into your 401k if you can. Like if you can afford it, you need to send it. Like you need to do it, because that's the only way you're going to be able to be in that position for when you retire and your Social Security and you have like additional assets that are going to be able to generate your income, if and when you actually ever stop working.
Well, I mean, that's right. I mean, this goes back to the same. It's kind of the same song and dance over and over again, right? You've said it a million times on this show. All roads lead to retirement, right? And when you get there and how you get there, that's a completely different animal. But when you get there is very much a function of how much money have you saved outside of your personal savings. So do you have enough money to do it?
Yeah.
And whether it's what your income strategy is going to look like. It's funny. I don't know if you guys handle this the same way, but clients will come to us all the time and they'll say, especially when they're younger, right? And they'll say, I really want to kind of start figuring out my retirement plan.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll say, well, how
God
old I
bless
am,
you.
35, 40. And I go, look, I get it. We can absolutely dive into that if you want, right? But the first thing that without even
Jay puts everything into an irrevocable trust at that point. Yeah. So
Never.
We're going to put everything into your irrevocable trust. It's irrevocable.
with me as the trustee.
Yeah,
That's right. That does not happen. But I guess my point is, in some ways, I'm not amused is not the right word, but in some ways, I think it's interesting to say to somebody, look, if you're 40, I want to figure out, I'm going to have a big, long conversation about retirement plan. So the answer is, to your point, well, save as much as you can. Save all of it. Save everything.
Save
Put
extra.
it all in there. Because first of all, you don't even know what your life's going to look like at that point, right? You might even, you might not kind of have your family situation figured out. There might be more kids showing up on the team. You never know, right? And you get some retirement. Like retirement is so. In some ways, I almost feel like you may disagree. In some ways, I almost feel like retirement is kind of the easiest problem to solve, right? In the sense that the solution is save as much as you possibly can.
Have I ever disagreed with you?
Well, no, but I guess my point is you're not threading the needle, right? Like a
Yeah.
lot of people get caught up in,
Exactly.
I
like
want to buy a retirement home. I want to buy a second property. How much money do I need to save?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not going to save all of it, right? You're going to save some of it, and you're going to come up with a down payment. College, right? You get into the math of private school, public school, merit scholarship. Do I have to save for 4 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 2 years? But I feel like retirement's very binary, right?
Yeah.
You just save everything you can because the bigger that number is, it's never. Nobody complains about saving too much money for retirement.
You took the words right out of my mouth. It's true. No one says that, right? It's like I couldn't agree with you more because, at age 40, even at age 50, even sometimes even at age 60, people don't have this clear picture of what their retirement's going to be
Yes.
like, right? They say, people say, well, I'd like to retire, and a lot of it kind of revolves around Social Security, or if they have some sort of a pension.
Let's squeeze a quick break in, and then I want to dive. I want to dive back into this conversation because this is kind of it's going down a path that I think people are going to find very insightful.
I mean, stay with us. All right, we'll
Let's
be right
do
back. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here. It's Saturday morning. You're learning. It's a learning day.
It might be raining. You're inside listening to the radio, so take some notes.
Hope it's not rain. Hope
Coffee.
it's not rain. April showers. You're right. Something
Bloody
like
Mary,
that.
whatever you want, your call. No judging.
It's later, right? It's after
Whatever,
8. Yeah.
whatever,
All right. We'll be right back.
And we're back by FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the
Was that
Marsden
on
Law
the air?
Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Right before the break, we were talking two things. We're talking retirement.
And Bloody Mary.
And then John wanted to know if I'm a Bloody Mary guy. And the answer to that is both of those questions is emphatically yes.
Retirement and Bloody
I want to
Mary.
retire,
In fact, they go hand in hand, right?
Bloody Marys play an integral role in my retirement. You're not a Bloody Mary guy?
No.
Really?
No. I'm not. I don't like vodka, for one. So I'm not like a big,
Can't even taste it.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's healthy. I know it
very
has
good
health,
for you.
and then you
It's
have
very
that-
good for you.
you have
That's why I have so
celery
many
on
of
the
them.
top. Yeah, right.
My favorite bartender in the entire world will not serve a Bloody Mary after noontime.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a
Yep.
morning. It's
If
a
you go,
breakfast.
if you go into her bar at 12:01 and you say,
Yeah.
"Can I have a Bloody Mary?" She'll go, "Nope."
See you tomorrow.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Well,
There's other things.
Well, we're good here then.
I'm sure she probably and this bartender this is your favorite bartender. Where is this bartender located?
Located down on the South Shore. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm sure that the bartender has something on the menu for after 12 o'clock that's relatively
Offer you any
relatively
number of
tasty.
alternatives.
Yeah.
Any number of
You
alternatives.
make a margarita,
But they will not include a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Nope. That's her rule, and she will not break it. So don't even try. Don't even try.
on the not very often occasions that I do drink before noon, it's for some reason, and again, maybe it's just the excitement of it. Maybe just because it reminds me of right, because you're like, I can't believe we're drinking and it's.
I think I'm 25 years old again.
Well, right, because that's what it reminds me of. It brings me back to the tailgate days, right?
Yep.
So my parents. When we were in school, my parents, because we only lived about an hour away from college, and it was a big deal. Like the football games were a big deal, and my parents made a point to come up and and this is these are the guys were a little they were kind of cloistered away. We didn't have a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
And when mom and dad would come up on the home football games, it was showtime.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
my mother wouldn't mess around, and my old man would always kind of have like a crooked eye, like say, really, you guys need to drink right now? And we'd be like,
yes,
oh, yes, Dad. And of course we weren't.
Yes, Mr. Drawing.
Yeah, of course we weren't really allowed to drink. It wasn't like yeah. So everything was kind of clandestine.
Yep,
and,
on the QT.
Yeah, and so we didn't. It wasn't anything fancy back then. But for some reason, for me, because of those times, beer tastes different in the morning than it does at any other time in the day.
Sure.
So if it's time to have something before noon, I will always drink beer because I'm like, I know this is going to taste different than it did.
Yep.
Than it's going to an hour from now.
Yep. Sure. Yep. Well, have 7 of them. It'll do that for you. Yep, they do. The 7th one feels different than the first one. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
It tastes a whole lot different. So yeah. So I would always the bloody and again I never was a big vegetable V8 guy. I never could drink that.
Yep.
And my mother loved it, and I was like, wow, I wonder why she likes it. No.
There you go, man. Again, you learn more about your parents. You're way cooler now than you used to be.
You're learning. All right, so
we were talking retirement, and we were talking. You were talking about like Social Security. We were talking about how much money you're going to save, and I think the concept that we were going with it was, getting caught up in sort of the numbers, if you will, getting caught up in the details at an early stage in the process.
Yeah, you must get that question all the time. So the people are like, how much do I need? Write down the number of how much I need to save, and you're like, I don't know.
So I guess my point is, I don't turn it back on the client to be a wise guy, but I turn it back on the client and I say, look, before we even start like getting out the calculator and talking about your cable bill and your gas bill and your this bill and your that bill, I said, the question is, what do you want your retirement to look like, right? Because everybody has a different vision. Everybody has a different view. Some people have no view, right? But everybody has an idea of what they want their retirement to look like. And you see it, you were joking earlier about, the Cape and what do you think you were doing? And you go anywhere and look around, right? And we're in the business, so we're a little more conscious of this, but you go anywhere and you look around and you say to yourself, there's a ton of people who are maybe in what they call a second act, right? Who they did something for a certain number of years, maybe some type of professional gig, maybe they worked for themselves, whatever the thing was. And now they've moved on to potentially part 2 of what they consider their career. They've either thought it through, they're figuring it out. So the answer is, I don't know, if you saved enough. You got to tell me what you want it to look like. And we've talked about this on the show 100 times, right? Use your vacation as a test run for what you think retirement's going to look like, right? I mean, are you going to be a snowbird? Are you going to live in Boston? Do you want to be near the grandkids? Are you moving to a condo? Do we have to come up with income to support 2 houses or 3 houses or 1 house? Are you moving in with somebody? There's 100 questions that aren't numbers. It's not that they're not numbers driven, but the answer to those questions drives the numbers piece of it.
Yeah,
that's the point, right?
Yeah,
and those are lifestyle questions.
Yeah, it's kind of like do I put the cart before the horse on this? So the idea of somebody where you say, hey, what do you want? Well, you kind of ask that question. What's the perfect world, right?
Yep.
And the perfect world is, I win the lottery and I never work another day in my life and blah blah.
Sure, that's one path.
Yep. Yeah. So if that doesn't happen, right? If that's if that's not that happens, so where do you want to end up? Like where do you want to be? Oh well, and you brought it up. Like look, some people don't know. Like they're like I don't know because it comes with like all of us. We all kind of face these questions that like, do you want to buy a vacation home? I don't know. Where would you want to buy? And you kind of get stuck on it, and then it's just too hard to decide, so you kind of push it off.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that with kind of what their retirement picture is going to be, and it could be driven by any number of different things. So all the more reason, because you may not know, or because you may not be sure, or because you may think you know, but you may not have thought about, well, you'll ask the question, so what about your kids? Are you gonna be one of those people who kind of, we're gonna retire in this place, in a golf community, because that's what we want to do? And it doesn't, I don't care where my kids go, right? Or not that I don't care, but that where they go, it's not going to drive where I go.
Right.
And then, that may change over time. That may change where people say, hey, wait a minute, like, especially when grandkids show up. And I love it. I love that. I love when I talk to clients and they're like, yeah, we've always wanted to go to Hilton Head and play golf, and that's what we want to do. And, I don't know what my kids are going to do, right? And then until they get handed their grandson, and they're like, wow.
How do I spend as much time as humanly possible with this little
like
infant?
You.
Yep.
Yeah, I like you. I like being with you. And then they kind of think way back to like when their own kids were this small, and they remember, they're like, when you were this small, it was really fun. And then as you got a little bigger, it was even more fun. Right. And then when you got to be 17, then it was a little scary, and then it was hard. But up until then, it was great, right?
And it comes with all the bennies and none of the burdens.
Oh, even better.
So that's like so to your point, right? So when people say like, well, how much money should I save for retirement? The answer is as much as you can, as much as you fiscally, humanly can, because unless you are the type of individual who can say without a doubt, I can visualize what my retirement is going to look like and what I want it to look like, and nothing that happens between now and then is going to alter my perception of what I want my retirement to look like. And those people are few and far between.
Yeah.
They exist, but they're few and far between. The answer is save a ton.
Yeah.
Save a ton, because the other stuff is sort of a TBD, right? To be decided. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, and we talk about this, because we get that question all the time. Like, how much do I need to save? How much do I need to save? And the answer is, as Jay said, you really want to save as much as you can afford. And again, but not at the expense of, I'm not saving for retirement right now. I'm not going to live my life in my 40s. So it's not like my family's not, all my kids are home. We're not going to ever go on vacation. Me and my wife, we're going to max out our 401ks. So, 20 or 30 years from now, we'll have enough money to kind of do what we want. That's not the answer. The answer is you save as much as you can afford, but never taking your eye off that prize. And the prize is that at some point, I am going to not collect this income. I am not going to do what I'm doing right now. Now, some people, they may say, like a guy like you who may say, I don't know if I'm ever going to really retire, right? I may just keep playing until, and now my, how I work in my 50s may be different than I work in my 70s, but I may never really kind of just walk away and never work again.
But that conversation right there, like, what that we haven't even talked about numbers.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't broken out the pencils.
Yeah,
we haven't got a spreadsheet out. It's not a spreadsheet question yet. It will be. At some point it will be. And to your point, I'm not saying that you ignore that aspect of the plan, but there's two components of that. There's the numbers part of the plan, but the numbers part can really only be dialed in on when you know what the lifestyle part of the plan looks like.
And we always say this too, is that the reason that you want to, that all money, having money in retirement does, it gives you flexibility, right?
Options.
It gives you
options.
It gives you the ability to kind of make some decisions, and because let's say you've always wanted to live in Florida. Let's say that let's say we'll use you as an example. Say, I have always wanted to live in Key West, Florida. And in my mind, I'm not saying this is what you are, but to say, you're a Key West guy.
I've joked about it. Sure, yeah.
You love Key West, and you say, in my mind, I want to be Ernest Hemingway. I want to be living in Key West. I want to write my memoir.
Yep.
I want to go to the beach every day. I want to have guys ask me if I'm going upstairs. That's another
all
story.
That stuff, different story. But that's right. That's right.
And that's what I want. But as your life develops and your kids and they have kids and you get to that point where it's like, okay, now it's I'm 67 years old. What am I going to do that? Am I going to make that call? And if you haven't saved enough money, or if you haven't saved enough to kind of put yourself in a financial position to do that, then it's off the table. And you may be in a perfect financial position to do it, and you may say, guess what? I don't want to live down there full time because you know what? My kids aren't going to go down there. I'm not going to see my grandkids.
Yep.
So maybe I'm going to do something different. I'll buy a place down there and I can spend some time down there, but I'm not going to be up there. I'm not going to be down there all the time.
Now again, you can also have multiple versions of your plan, right?
I love that. Like,
So you can do
contingency plans.
well. You can do the I mean
courses of action.
oh, but think about the things that you've seen working with your clients, right? You could probably say with some degree of not certainty, but some degree of consistency. Look, this is kind of what we see people do when they retire.
Right.
People travel the world. Okay, that's plan A. People travel the U.S. in an RV. That's plan B. People do the snowbird thing. They play a lot of golf and they play a lot of tennis, and that's plan C. Or, like you just mentioned, they sit tight locally because this is where their family is, this is where their base of operations is, and their snowbird story is we go for a month, we rent the place, and we come back.
Yeah.
You can kind of back of the envelope this, and then you could even play the game of, how much are each of those scenarios going to cost me if you wanted to spin it out and get a sense of that. But in any event, the answer is the more money you have saved for retirement, the higher or the better the probability that any one of those scenarios becomes that much more plausible,
right.
I guess is the idea.
And we're kind of using examples now of like this is the pie in the sky. These are great retirements, right? If I maybe I'll be a snowbird, maybe I'll be maybe I have enough money to do, maybe I can buy a second home, and that's great. But a lot of people they're not in that position.
That's
in
right.
Retirement,
That's right.
And so they're like, well, I'll never be able to save that much money. I'll never be able to like have two houses. I'll never be able to buy, have enough money to buy an RV where I'm going to go across the country. I'm just not going to have. I don't make enough money right now in order to do it. I'm not financial. And so I always say, look, I get it. That's fine. Your retirement may not. You're not going to buy like a house in Nantucket, right?
Yeah.
Neither am I. But I'm just, it may be different. But it doesn't mean that you don't save, like Jay said, as much as you can, as much as you can afford, because no matter what, once you actually get to that retirement point, whatever it looks like, I'm still working, but I'm not working the same amount of time. I'm working in a different job. I'm not working at all. Whatever that is, the more money that you have, the more flexibility you're going to be able to do things kind of in that early stage, because we always say that retirement, like once you once you go to that next step, those are the golden years, right?
Yeah.
And I say to my clients, I'm like, look, you're 67 years old right now. You're probably not going to feel the same when you're 77.
No,
God willing, maybe you will. Maybe you'll be fortunate and your health will sustain, but most of the time you're not, right? And again, your world may be different, right? Your kids may be still younger kids. You may not have any grandkids at this point, or maybe you do. Who knows, right? But you're at this point where, as we are in any time in your life, 67 is not going to be the same as 77. It's not going to be the same as 87.
It's not, but when you're 27, you don't know that, first of all, because you're bulletproof, right? You're going to live forever. And when you're 27 and you say, well, I don't make as much money as I was hoping to make, this is where saving as much as you can and letting the power of compounding and letting the power of the market over time address a lot of these issues. Again, you don't have to know the end game. You just got to know that the more you have when you get to the end game, the better the end game potentially could be. And you're right. A lot of people are going to say, look, those are things that either I don't want to do or they're not in the cards for me, which is understandable and it makes perfect sense. So at least have an understanding of what you want it to look like so that we can build a plan around it. But you have to come up with the plan.
Yeah.
Right? The plan could be, I want to pay my house off. I want to have I want to get Social Security. I want to play golf 3 days a week with my buddies.
Can the plan involve jet skis?
The plan can involve jet skis. The plan can involve day trips. There's people that say, look, I want to see New England. I want to go up and down the coast to Maine. We're at the striking distance of some of the most beautiful vacation areas in the country.
You are correct.
I want to take advantage of all of that. I don't need to go to Florida. I don't need to move to another location. The location is here.
Yeah.
And I've been working so hard. I get to see all these things. We're going to do that.
Yeah.
That's what, again, it's your plan. Talk about it. Let's figure it out from a concept perspective, and then we can start building around the numbers. The numbers are important, but the answer is always, from my perspective, more is better.
All right. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll tell you how to get from point A, where we're talking about, to point B. We're going to tell you how to get there right after a word from our sponsors.
You'll want to write this down.
Money in the Law, My FM 101.3, Jay Marsden and John Dron. Holliston Cable Access TV is here as well. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3, Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Christian steering us through the cosmos here as we ride the big blue rock all around the universe. You like
Actually,
that?
it's just around the sun.
Just around the sun?
We're
Just
not-
another,
we're
just
not-
another trip around the
yeah, we're on
sun,
the
as your
same-
boy, as your
we're on
boy
the-
would say?
We're on the same glide path.
I think I mean, with the universe expanding all ways,
Yeah.
we are actually moving through the cosmos. I mean,
That's
we're,
true.
we're,
Yeah,
we're rotating around the
we're in a
sun, but the
different
universe is
place.
expanding all the time. So we and the sun are moving across the same plane, if you will.
It's funny. So I have some clients and some friends that you can't talk about space to them. Like they're just like, don't talk about space. And I'm like, what do you mean don't talk? I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of cool,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, like it's space. It's right. You know, and they're like, no, I can't get my head around it. And so therefore, don't talk about it. Like, don't talk about like when you say the universe expanding. Like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't really know. You know, I mean, no one really knows, but you kind of think you know. And these guys like say, well, this is exactly what's happening. And you're like, whatever it is, it's pretty cool. And
it's very cool.
yeah, and it makes you feel pretty small and insignificant, but at the same time, it makes you think. I always love the idea of like, oh yeah, I don't think there's any life out in the other universe. Like, really?
Yeah, really?
Yeah,
You think we're as good as it gets?
This is
really?
This is a statistics. This is a math problem here. So in basic math, what do you think the odds are?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we talked about it as you talked about Chesney earlier, and I just joked around this trip around the sun. So he has a song called "Trip Around the Sun."
Shut
the great Kenny
door.
Chesney. Yep. And if you ever
like
want,
Country Jay over here.
if you ever want to feel like I can't wait for summer for the gun to go off for summer, watch the Trip Around the Sun video.
video,
And
yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't like jump in your car and race down to the Cape after you hear that song, then there's no hope for you, because you are like chomping at the bit for summer to get going. It's pretty funny stuff, and that's part of that whole country music crossover thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
it's all about it.
It's taken over. Like
Oh,
it's
taken over.
encroached its way up here.
That's right.
Speaking
That's
of
right.
going to the Cape, I think we may be making our first trip to the Cape in a while.
Nice. Best to Janet.
Next week.
Yeah,
to
nice.
see Mom. Everybody will be all vaxxed up. So
Oh yeah, 'cause it's
we're
school vacation week next week.
school vacation week. So
Are you staying local, or are you going anywhere? Other than to see Mom.
no,
No,
that's as far as
as far as you go,
no,
as far
we're
as
not
the
going.
Cape? There you
We're
go.
going that crazy.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, we may drive around and visit, some colleges and say,
Yep.
hey, do you want to go to college here? And then I'll get to you. I don't know.
I got a work event. I'm zipping down to Orlando.
Oh, that's right.
Next
Yeah,
Thursday.
that's your work-
So
there
we'll
you
see
go.
what
That's right,
happens.
that's
Maybe I'll report back from.
Are you going to go? You're not going to make a Disney trip, are you?
No
you
Disney trips.
No.
Nope. We did that once, and it was
Yeah, you-
great, and it was
yeah.
way better than I thought, and I'm never doing it again. Yep.
And I'm good.
That's right. And I'm good. Box checked. Thank you. Yep. That's great.
Box checked, checkbook taken out and
Yep.
expended.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So all good. So
Christian, have you been to Disney? You're a Disney guy.
look at the enthusiasm.
I
He
mean,
has
I
been.
mean, I haven't seen him like be that psyched. Like
That's
in-
the most
that's
emotional he's gotten in
right?
about 4
That's
years.
crazy. Are you
Yep.
okay? Hey, look at he's got. You got to take a knee.
The only time he cried more than that was when he found out he got this job working with us every day. That's every Wednesday. That's when he started to get more emotional.
All right. Yeah. So we're talking about how we're going to get from point A to point B. How do
Yeah.
you? So we say, yeah, save as much as you can, save as much as you can. So we started the show by talking about your employer-sponsored plan. So if you have an employer-sponsored plan, like a 401k, or if you're in a nonprofit or a
Yeah, 403B, 457, any one of those
those
four
fours.
plans. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So that's kind of where it all starts. And then there's always that first question of, well, is there a match? And if there's a match, meaning that if your employer will put money in that they're going to give to you for free, then awesome. That's great. That's a bonus. Some people will be like, you know what? Even I don't. There's no match, so I'm not interested. And then I'm like, let me stop you right there. I mean, I understand that, you're not getting that, where other people are getting a
Sure,
match.
the free money's nice. Don't get me wrong. Yep,
But
yep,
that's
right.
but more often than not, in fact, most of the time, your 401k that's your best bang for your buck as far as where to invest money for retirement. Now, you may have a financial planner or friends guys that say, oh, but you can do something with us. You can do an IRA with us, and depending on how much you can save, and that's all well and good, but most of the time that will cost you more. Like from a cost perspective, it will cost you more than your employer-sponsored plan. So you got to think about like the cost of it. Also, most of the time,
Top of the org chart. First place you want to start.
401k is it's your best bet. And the other thing about a 401k is there's no real income limits as to how much you can put in. You can make $1 million, and your wife makes $1 million. Both of you can put in as much. You're allowed, again, depending upon your 401k.
Yeah, you're putting in
But
19,
most
20,
of the time,
whatever the number is. Yeah.
you have the ability to max out your 401k. So your 401k gives you the most kind of bang for your buck as far as being able to put in more money as much as you can afford. And if you're fortunate enough where you can max out your 401k, depend upon whatever your age is, then that's gonna then even better. Then you're taking full advantage of it, whether there's a match or not.
But if you can't max out your 401k, well, that's fine too. I
Yeah.
mean, don't see that as like a badge of dishonor, right? Just put the money away. Just get the money in there, and if it's 15 grand or it's 12 grand, whatever that number is, again, the important part is that you're doing this consistently, day in, day out, paycheck in, paycheck out. That's the goal. The goal is to just be putting this money away and pointing it towards retirement, because although nobody believes this when you're young, you will wake up one day, you will be 53, and you'll say to yourself, boy, I hope let me look at my 401k balance. And you go back and you look and you go, oh, that's a surprise. That's nice. That works out really well.
And that's great, right? Because like for young people, right? So oftentimes young people, they can't afford it. And we talked about, my buddy Lily, who just came. So Lily has a 403b, and I'm like, hey, you should, this is what I do for a living. You should put some money in this. And she's like, oh, really? I don't have time for that. Like she can't be bothered. I'm too caught up in making sure I have enough money to live in the city, and I just moved and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, I get it, right? I go, just put a little bit, just something, just do. $20 a paycheck, do $50 a paycheck. Something that you're not even. That's a couple cups of coffee. Like you won't even notice it.
Just get the path opened.
Yeah. And then we talked about this too, about how you can get the path open and always keep your eye on it, even if it's a lifetime away. Just say, always be thinking, okay, I got to save money for retirement. And you get in that mindset. And if you do it when you're young. I mean, you and I see it, right? We see people that have like 401ks in their 50s and like millions of dollars, and you're like, where did all this money come from?
And just to be clear, people who have millions of dollars in their 401k, if you're listening to the show, they're probably friends of yours that you don't even realize, because you when you park $2 million in your 401k because you've been, aggressively funding that over the course of your working career, you don't even know it happened.
Yeah.
It's almost like it happened. It doesn't happen by accident, but that's what it feels like. And you don't know that because nobody wears that on their sleeve. That doesn't factor into the house they buy. It doesn't factor into the car they drive.
It might not even factor in their job. Like you may say, well, I know this guy makes a lot of money, right? He makes, they don't make that much money, right?
They don't make it. No, this is the whole millionaire next door concept. This is not, they didn't make $1 million a year. They made the same amount of money as people in their field that's probably similar to either you or even, they made less than you. They were just better about their consistency to doing this. They didn't get caught up in it. They just did it. And then, yes, at 50, they woke up and they were like, oh my God, look at that. I have almost $2 million in my 401k.
Yeah.
And somebody else is going to go, 401k, we have that at the company?
Yeah.
I got to start doing that.
I should do that.
Retirement's 10 years away. I got to get on that.
Or I have like a half a dozen of them from all my different jobs. And
I'll be able to put $200,000 away every year for the next 10 years. I mean, this is what we're talking about, right? These are the options, right? It's like, for those of you sales guys out there, you know the drill, right? Salespeople out there, you didn't make your sales number in January. It's that much more money you're going to make in February. It's that much more work you're going to do in March, as opposed to getting in front of it now. And it's a different path. And that 401k, it sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on you, and you see it. You're going to start. This is where for our contemporaries, in the early 50s-ish demographic.
Right in the beginning.
But this is where you start to see the separation. Because, by the way, the $1 million or $2 million that somebody might have saved in their 401k, and the market moves, 10%, you've made $100,000 on paper, mind you, market moves in your favor, right? But you made $100,000, and you didn't have to do a whole heck of a lot. And there's a whole, there's a whole bunch of caveats to that about the market goes up, market goes down, a whole bunch of stories. But that money makes money concept is big. It's huge.
And so when you start, and again, it's not like just because we tell you you need to save more money in your 401k that you're just going to automatically be able to do it. I mean, it may take some lifestyle adjustments. It may take some budgeting, but maybe not as much as you think.
That's right.
Maybe not. It's not going to be as because a lot of people are like, oh my God, like my daughter, right? She's like, oh, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? I'm like, it's not that big a change, and it doesn't have to happen overnight. I mean, like Jay and I beat you up, like say, oh, you got to save as much as you can, you save as much as you can, and you hear that, and you're like, I know, and you kind of beat yourself up because you can't do it, or you don't feel like or you simply can't afford it.
I'm trying to buy a house. I can't put money in my 401k.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
fine. That's an excuse we hear all the time. It's like, well, you can do both. You
Yeah.
absolutely can do both.
Yeah, and all it takes is like a little bit of arithmetic and a little bit of kind of, you put a plan together and a little bit of discipline, and you know what? Before you know it, you may have not maxed out your 401k, but let's say you put $5,000 in your 401k this year that you otherwise wouldn't have done it.
That's right.
If you're 25 years old and you put $5,000, go get one of these compounding calculators. $5,000 at 5% over the next 30 years.
Whatever, that's right.
It turns into real money, right? And this is what happens. This is why the more money that you can just kind of, and the nice thing about the 401k is and with any retirement account, is it kind of set up for, once you put it in there, if you want to take it out, it's going to be a little bit of a workout.
Yes.
And they're going to slap your hand. They're going to give you a nice 10% penalty. And they're going to charge you your taxes. And someone's going to give you a hard time about it because they're going to say, hey, now you're cutting into your retirement. What you were saving for retirement. So it's not like it's you putting it in the bank. You put it in the bank and you can take your money out. It's not that easy.
But you know what's funny? So you talk, like, everybody wants to talk about the retirement piece, right? They want to talk about how much do I need? How much do I need? How much do I need? Well, the answer is you need as much as you can put in the account right now.
Yeah.
Forget that big number at the end. That's, if you do the work now,
Yep.
that will hopefully not take care of itself. It's work, but to your point, don't spend so much time focusing on the end of the journey. Focus on how you can do, because this is about getting to critical mass as quickly as you can,
Yeah.
right? This is about putting money away now when you're younger so that you can kind of get that compounding going so that it can hopefully work to your advantage.
Yeah, and this is why we say, when we started the show, like this time of year, it's not a fire and forget thing. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to think about my retirement and I'm going to put, 10% of my paycheck away and I'm going to do it. It's not you do that and then you forget about it.
Right.
This is where you come back and you revisit and you say, okay, 6 months later, 3 months later, okay, where am I at? Can I afford it? And we always make
right.
this joke. We're like, all right, so we're going to put in 9%, and then after then when you tell me when you put in 10, and then after that, you're 12, and
When you max
call
out at
me
15,
when you're 15,
you're good to go.
Yeah. So it's like we're always trying to kind of push you a little bit further. Say, oh, can you do a little more? Because the other cool thing about a 401k is you can always back it off.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say, I want to max it out, and you're maxed out, and you're like, oh, hold on a second. We are living in the red right now because our cost of living is just too high,
Yeah.
and we really can't make any adjustments. Like this is what it is. This is what it costs for us right now. We have daycare or whatever we have to deal with. So you can back it off. And you can say, all right, that's okay. Maybe 15% is too much. Back it down to 12 or 13 or 10%. See how that feels. But you never leave it alone. You don't put it on the shelf and forget about it. If you come back and you're always kind of, okay, how much am I doing? And you understand that, then when things change, let's say you get a raise, or let's say some cash, or let's say your spouse who is staying home, she starts to work. Now all of a sudden, it's in your mind. You're like, okay, hey, wait a minute. First thing I can do is I can save more money towards retirement. And oh, by the way, honey, you have a job now too.
Right.
Do you have a 401k? Can we put money into your
Let's
retirement?
load that thing up.
Yeah.
And for my self-employed friends out there, this is critically important for you to remember this. You have to do this. No one's going to do it for you. You got to go out and set up either your own small company or solo 401k or a SEP IRA to take advantage of all the things that the tax code lets you do. And I say this because, and you know this as a small business owner, it is very, very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, I'm just running my business, especially as we kind of move our way through the pandemic. And obviously you're just, like everybody, you're just hoping that you can keep the lights on and all that stuff. This is the number one easy thing to forget, I think, if you're a small business owner, because you're going to get your taxes done. And then depending on how well you've been paying about your quarterlies, or do you do a payroll service, but then when you get your taxes done, your tax person is going to say to you, great, now we did your taxes and you're probably going to owe something for any number of reasons. Hopefully you don't, but if you owe something, and then, oh, by the way, on top of the owing of the $10,000, for example, right, you can put $25,000 into your retirement account.
Yeah.
So the tax guy is going to say to you, or the tax person is going to say to you in April,
Got
May,
any money?
hey, you got $35,000? And the answer is, whoa. I got 10, which I'm going to use to pay my tax obligation to keep Uncle Sam off my back. The 25 into the retirement, that's a little bit of
Maybe I don't have it.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch. So this is, if you are, this is the number one thing that I think that is very, very easy for small business owners to overlook.
Yeah.
And it's the, if you can wrap your head around it, it's the number one easiest way to put away a pile of retirement money above and beyond even what other people can do in their plans. And you just got to plan for it, and you got to build it into your cash flow analysis.
Exactly.
That's what you do. You build it into your cash flow analysis. And you know what? Even if you fund, to your point, even if you fund half of this thing, as again for the self-employed, even if you fund half of it on a monthly basis, you throw $1,000 or whatever the number is in there, whatever you can afford. Then when it does come time to pay your taxes, your tax person says to you, "I don't need 25. I need 10 for taxes and 10 for your retirement account contribution. Can you do it?" And now, without even realizing it, you've put away $22,000, right? And that's, again, critical mass. Let's kind of, let's get this thing pointed in the right direction. So, again, all my self-employed friends, don't forget about this, because it's a big deal. And the answer is always, don't worry, I'll work forever. I love my job. I love my job. You love your job now, right?
Yeah. I'm going to sell my business. My business is that's my big, and you're like, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't,
Well, and I hope you do.
Yeah.
And so guess what? So if you do, and on top of that, you've been saving for your retirement consistently year over year over year. Now you have 2 piles of money, right?
Yeah.
And I think 2 piles of money are better than 1 pile of money.
2 piles are usually better, unless 1 pile's way
I mean, if 1 pile's huge, but
I
mean, if you can have 2 big piles of money,
the
I like that.
We're kind of like the more piles, the better, right?
More piles of money, better.
Yeah,
More
that's pretty much how we do it, right?
Yeah. Like
Solaris Hill Investments, we just have piles of money.
Piles of money laying around.
Yep.
Piles of money laying around. Go out, just put it in the wheelbarrow and bring it back in.
All right, listen, we got to go. We got to go back to work.
All right, all you
and me.
solos, get back to work.
Yeah.
Saturday, no day offs for you.
That's right. And you might even work Sunday morning, but take the rest of the afternoon.
Well, but sit down, have a Bloody Mary before
Bloody
noontime.
Mary.
Relax. That's what it's for. You've earned it. Just don't try to get one after 12 from my favorite bartender.
Yeah, good luck. All right, so we'll see everybody next week on Money in the Law, My FM 101.3, everybody's favorite hometown radio station with Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group. I'm John Drohan, Main Effort Financial, Holliston Cable Access TV.
Have a great one, everybody.
We'll see everybody next week.
Be well.